We are joined by attorney Jeff O'Brien for our weekly 3 and Out, usually 3 sports stories. It is today, and let's start out. We talk so much about the Vikings, we rarely talk about the Minnesota Wild, who, by the way, they got something going this year. That Quinn Hughes trade, they had won going into last night's game with the top team in the NHL, Colorado. 7 in a row, 5 straight wins since Hughes came over. And the defenseman, the guy they gave basically 4 first-round picks for, 3 players who were first-round picks, and the 2026 first-round pick. They did lose, it's not close, 5-1 to Colorado. But, as you just noted when we were off the air, third best record in the NHL, Jeff. So, this maybe finally there's a team here that can do some damage in the NHL postseason.
Yeah. I mean, they're still dealing with some injuries too, which is so that they've been winning despite having some guys banged up, which is a good sign. But yeah, they lost last night badly. It was too bad because the 3 best teams in the NHL right now by points are Colorado, Dallas, and then the Wild. And the Wild, even though they're in 3rd place in the Western Conference, they would be in 1st place if they were in the Eastern Conference. There's nobody close to them over there. So they had beaten Dallas, just before the Hughes trade, and I think people were a little bit optimistic. But Colorado's, there's a reason they're the best team in the NHL, and so didn't pull it out. They lost like 5-1. But
you know what though, Jeff? Here's the thing: if you combine the points for the 2 teams that have either played or currently play in Minnesota, it dwarfs Colorado. They got a 49-point lead. The Dallas Stars and Minnesota Wild have combined for like 104 points.
Yeah,
that's pushing it a little bit. But yeah, no team in the Eastern Conference has a better, more points. And the Wild now, I mean, they're sitting pretty good. The 37, 22, and 10. Mm-hmm. So that's not too shabby.
No, and there's still some rumors that Bill Guerin isn't done with trades. I do get concerned about if they're going to try to do another big trade, how much of their future they're giving up. But prospects are prospects. We've seen this. We talk about this in the baseball context with the Twins about always holding on to prospects, and they are what they are. These you can trade for an established player that you can keep under contract for for some time. And everything that Quinn Hughes is saying right now is very positive about the Wild, to the point where they're now, he's got, I think we talked about this last week, he's got 2 brothers on the New Jersey Devils, and there's a lot of chatter about whether or not they're going to try to reunite the 3 brothers with the Wild.
Yeah, but the brothers, how good are the brothers? Because it'd be a lot easier for him to go to Jersey than it would be for the 2 brothers to come here.
I think the brothers are actually pretty good.
Yeah, they're not going to let them go then. You're talking, huge numbers they'd have to do. Or
we'll see. The Wild have, the thing is, the Wild have had cap space. That's the thing, is they've had plenty of money to work with since dumping those 2 contracts finally expired. So
Parisi Suter.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's I think it's going to be a fun year for the Wild. They're celebrating their 25th anniversary. Crazy to believe, Bob, that as of next year, they'll have been here as long as the North Stars were here.
Really? Oh my gosh! Yeah, I don't think
the North Stars were here from '67 to '93.
That's staggering. I did not realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. All right, now let's talk about item 2. Let's go with the Tommies. They, the basketball team, not the football team, because they're done. What they're doing over there, it's incredible.
They have been. They, of all the programs, the majors programs on the men's side, in post, once they moved up to D1, the one that has, in my opinion, adapted the best, and they've all done a pretty decent job, but the men's basketball team under John Tower.
Yeah, John's done a great job.
Has clearly that is the marquee program over at the University of St. Thomas, and he came into it having been, he was on Steve Fritz's staff as an assistant when they won their first D3 national title. They won one with him as head coach a few years later. And, they finished second in the conference playoffs, the conference tournament last year for the Summit League. So they were they couldn't go to the playoffs last year.
They can this year, though.
They can this year, and this is the thing. It for people that don't understand how it all works. The winner of the Summit League tournament gets an at-large berth to March Madness, to the big NCAA tournament, 64-team tournament. So it is entirely conceivable and St. Thomas has been the preseason favorite to win the Summit League. I think right now in the standings they're behind North Dakota State only because I think one of them has they have the same number of wins, but North Dakota State has 3 losses and St. Thomas has 4 losses. Right?
Here's a question for you. I'm not even going to say, well, who'll go first, because the Tommies clearly will. How many NCAA appearances will the Tommies have before the Gophers go back to an NCAA tournament? That's the real question.
That's
not
a good
who'll
question.
First.
I want to get past the first question. I want to see what I'm curious to see how the sports community will react if the Tommies get into the tournament and the Gophers are watching it.
Oh,
I like the Gophers. I'm not trying to rip on the Gophers, but I'm in the view of iron sharpening iron, right? The better the St. Thomas programs do, the more pressure it's going to put on the Gophers to put good product on.
Jeff, you know what they'll just say? Gopher fans, it's a Summit League. They'll get knocked out in the first round. They get blown out. Doesn't matter. They won. They beat the competition that they have. But,
exactly.
And that's what you need to do if you're a Gopher. You need to beat the competition that you have. So we'll see how that all plays out. Now, both the Johnnies, St. John's football, and Bethel are out of the D3 playoffs. The last few weeks they got knocked out. But the teams that beat them are going to those teams are going to play for the national title this coming week. Or weekend.
Actually, January. They think they're off for the holiday, and then they come back after the New Year and they play. It's like January 4th.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They take a little bit of a break. But anyway, those two teams, the teams that beat the Johnnies and the Bethel, are going to be playing. North Central will play. Hey, congrats to Wisconsin River Falls. They're right across the river.
Yep.
So
hey, if they had to lose, they lost. They lost to potentially one of them lost to the best team in D3 football. So
we'll find out which one.
North Central's the defending champ, but River Falls looked pretty good on Saturday. So should be a good game. Kind of neat to have again a couple of Midwestern schools facing off in the Stagg Bowl. So which is what they call the Division III.
The Amos Alonzo Stagg Bowl.
Yes. I think the Johnnies won two of. I know they didn't call it the Stagg Bowl all the time when John Gallardi won all his.
Well, Gallardi won. I think he won.
Yeah,
he won in the NAIA and he won the NCAA and he won 4. A few weeks ago, I said 3. It is 4 national titles that he won.
Yeah, but I think 2 of them were actually under. It was the Stagg Bowl. The NAIA was called something else. I think.
I'm sure it was. That wouldn't have been the Stagg Bowl.
And then
I'll tell you what.
Thomas, I know, was played into and lost both to Mount Union, I think, but that's been the only Minnesota teams that have played in it as in the last say 20 years or so.
Well, I will say this about D3 when it relates to John Gallardi. He was still alive and I believe still coaching when they were giving the Gallardi Award, which is the Division III Heisman. To the best player in D3 football. That was really a great honor for them to do it while he was still coaching and still alive. And he had players that that won it. But you kind of, for me, because I really like John Gallardi. What else can they give him? I mean, they should give him more. Maybe nobody knows who Amos Alonzo Stagg is. Give it to Gallardi. Call it the Gallardi Bowl, or come up with a Gallardi Bowl of some sort.
That's not the worst idea, but no, yeah, it is quite an honor that the award for the top player in the NCAA D3 football is named after him.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And again, he and Jerry Burns, I'll break it up: pro division, college division. Jerry Burns, my favorite coach, regardless of the sport, and Gallardi, my favorite college coach, because he was a joy to be around and to interview. So, and, just to get to know, not just that. I mean, I could talk to him about more than football. Just a good guy. So, and I remember first time I ever covered a Gallardi game, he beat Bethel, and I think it was I don't remember what number it was. It was like a milestone game for him, and he won by 60 or 70 points, and he decided to go for 2. So it put a little bit of I don't know, not a damper on it, but I had to ask him, why'd you go for 2? And I think he said his kicker was getting tired. So he would too if there are all those extra points he'd been kicking. But you know what? You really can't criticize a team for doing that because it happened in the NFL. Sometimes these guys, they want to make sure they know as they get ready for the postseason that they could run the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with it.
Right. Well, and and the thing is about everybody these teams get criticized sometimes for when the score gets out of whack and what coaches get criticized for making decisions. But I can remember the game that I think was the final straw and what pushed the MIAC schools to push St. Thomas out was a game that they played down in Northfield against St. Olaf, and they won like 98-0 or something. But the problem was you can only take so many guys on the bus. You can't bring the 4th and 5th stringers and put them in when you're on the road.
You know what? That whole thing, that was St. Olaf's fault for not being competitive. And it's wrong that the Tommies had to pay the price for it. It's outrageous.
It's worked out, though.
Yeah, well, it has. But all right, Jeff, thank you so much. Have a wonderful Christmas week. We'll take a quick break.
Well.
Thank you. Take a quick break. The BS Show will be right back.